I had a close friend whom I met during our first year in college while waiting in line for dormitory warrants outside the dean's office. A few days later, we discovered that we were in the same classes and even lived in neighboring rooms. Our friendship blossomed over the next 5 years, with Pashka's homemade duck soup becoming a staple in our lives. Eventually, we became roommates, occupying 2 of the 3 stalls in our wing. We hung a towel on the door whenever one of us was inside, so the other would know not to disturb us, even if Pashka had to go hungry and cold while running errands around campus. We shared countless memorable experiences and truly treated each other like brothers. However, after completing our studies, Pashka secured a job at a reputable firm and mentioned that if he settled down, he would help me find employment there as well. We ended up renting an apartment together for about a year until I met my future wife. Pashka selflessly moved out, giving us space to nurture our relationship without his presence. Time passed, and my wife and I celebrated our wedding, although we hadn't yet started a family. Just as Lisa was about to finish her studies, Pashka unexpectedly approached me with an offer. There was a vacant position as a personal assistant under his command. I found myself contemplating the opportunity, mainly due to the appealing salary, but upon closer inspection, I realized that the office was involved in shady microfinance dealings. Moreover, serving coffee in my best friend's office seemed rather degrading, to say the least. I didn't want to compromise my reputation for questionable money, even if the pay was higher. Pashka, holding a glass of cognac, tried to persuade me, saying, "What difference does it make who you work for, Balda? Buy a house first, and then we'll find you something better." I playfully wagged my index finger and replied, "You'll only get further away from me, you hear." And Lisa had decided against writing her own diploma. Instead, she believed that the solution to any problem was to become part of the white-collar world. My spouse had transformed into a strange blend of a woman and a soulless being. Once, when I mentioned changing jobs, I was met with a tantrum and accusations of lacking ambition. It was insinuated that I had missed my chance to succeed, and now it was Lisa's turn to shine. However, I couldn't help but think about how a mere secretary position could truly allow her to express herself. It seemed like a superficial ornament to their supposedly happy and successful world. Just like the rest of their facade, it felt cheap and only focused on solving other people's problems. Time went by, and Pashka received yet another promotion. Along with his new office, he brought Lisa with him. That evening, to celebrate his success, Lisa prepared a bottle of champagne for dinner. She was so elated by our friend's promotion that I couldn't bring myself to dampen her spirit with the news that I had been invited to work on a project that could potentially make us wealthy. As she joyfully ordered sushi and danced her peculiar dances in the kitchen, I couldn't help but admire her. It seemed that there was a thaw in our relationship, and we had finally overcome the crisis we were facing. Curiosity got the better of me, and I gently pushed my wife away to eavesdrop behind the restroom door. It was there that I heard her cell phone ringing. As I observed the situation, I initially pondered about the delivery and even contemplated expressing my curiosity regarding how quickly the person behind the door emerged. However, Liska's words were uttered in a hushed tone. "Yeah," she whispered, aware that he was home. I strained my ears to listen, but she didn't mention anything about us. She suggested that we take a vacation after the trip, followed by a scandal, which made my wife giggle. I deliberately returned to my starting point, opting to flush the water in the cistern with purposeful loudness. Returning to the kitchen, I questioned, "Who called?" "No one," my wife swiftly responded. "I heard the call. Seems a little early for a delivery," I remarked hesitatingly. "The chief called, reminding me about his upcoming business trip next week," she reluctantly explained. "Oh, I see. I'm against it," I stated. "I don't understand," she retorted. "What's there to be confused about? I'm your husband, and I'm against it. Quit your job." In that moment, I could practically see her simmering with anger and panic concurrently. It was a bizarre sight that brought amusement to my soul. Resentment now fueled her, and I yearned for her confession. Liska stood before me, puckering her lips like a fish, refusing to utter a single word. Her eyes emitted fury, and there was nothing left to say. But since you're choosing to stay silent, I'll call your Pasha and inform him to find a new mistress. Oops, I misspoke. I meant assistant, I casually mentioned. Liska lunged towards me, and I swiftly intercepted her hands, though one of her fingernails managed to scratch her cheek. Calm down, you fool. You cheated, and now you want to fight. I warned her. Liska kicked out again. Be careful, I'll strike back. That night, my marriage crumbled. Liska packed her belongings and sought refuge at her best friend's house. Meanwhile, I immersed myself in a work project, which helped me navigate through the divorce. 6 months later, a familiar name popped up on the phone. The ex asked for help, money, and a lawyer. I refused without even listening. The next day, Pavlik called, and his new number was added to the blacklist. In the evening, my mother-in-law arrived. It turned out that this couple in love, the employer through the employer. The friend did not just get his raises, but in order to sign various papers. As a result, all the debts of the miracle company fell on the fragile shoulders of Lisa and Pasha, and instead of a beautiful life, they were now facing huge debts or jail time.